Hi, Liz Nassar here, and I'm doing my Hello Writer about me as a writer video. So doing the writing. So I have up on my screen the section from the blog that explains the Hello Writer and what I'm supposed to talk about using the Hidden Gems textbook. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of history of myself as a writer. Growing up, I really hated writing and reading and anything to do with English because I struggled with it a lot. Not just with spelling, but punctuations, and so and just reading itself, which made me not like writing. So I really wasn't an active writer when I was younger. I would try, but I really would rather do something else in school rather than writing. And it wasn't until high school that I really started to appreciate writing and start loving it, and that's also around the same time I started to really love reading. I have ADHD, so that was also a big part as to why I didn't like to read and all that and write. And so finally in high school I realized that it's just all about finding what you love to write about, what you love to read about. And so I really liked writing analytically, like writing, analyzing a piece of literature and writing about it, more so than the creative writing. And so, so that's a little bit of history on my writing experience, and, like I said, I struggled a lot. I would get a lot of comments on my papers about punctuation or misspellings, because I also have a tendency while writing to pass over words that are misspelled, like I see them as being correct, and so I have a lot of issues with that, but I have gotten better with that over the years. I still struggle today with punctuation, and I'll get, it says in the book about how professors will circle or comment in the margins vague, wordy, awkward about parts of a paper, and I've gotten that a lot throughout the years where they'll say a sentence awkward because I, for the longest time, didn't know how to properly use a comma or semicolon even, and so I would have sentences that wouldn't be correct punctuation wise, and sometimes I guess word wise also, but my teachers would just put sentences awkward, and they wouldn't really tell me why. And she does talk about that in the book on page 15, about how, like, what was awkward about it. She says, I certainly recognize and relate to mind-numbing, tailbone bruising consequences of grading hundreds and hundreds of papers. Perhaps spurring high school and college composition teachers to shorten awkward to awk. And I get this sentence awkward. I got that more actually in college more than so I did in high school as a writer. When I was in high school as a writer, I got a lot more stuff with I would have a misspelled word, or I'd have a run-on, but the sentence would make sense. So they wouldn't put awkward, they would just tell me what to correct in high school. I had a lot of stuff with that in college, though, like in my intro to English studies when I was writing for there. My professor would put a lot of times, this is awkward, but she wouldn't say why, and I would go to talk to her, and I still wouldn't understand why it was awkward. So when I would go to do my final draft, I really didn't know how to fix it. And that's something I think that is a big issue, is if teachers are going to write, in the margins, they definitely should explain their reasoning for it. The best writing I've done, I would say, has just been within the recent years. I wrote, for my Strategies to Advanced Writing course, I wrote an Autohistoria, where I had to use all these different genres, and so that was really one of my best works, just because I really had to push myself as a writer. And although it was a very stressful experience, I really grew as a writer then, and I would say that's definitely one of my best works. And that was about a year ago, and then ever since then my writing has been a lot better. I recently switched to being English. I used to write mostly, because I was in biology, just lab reports and stuff like that, and I think that's why I also like analytical papers more, just because I was in the science for so long, and I'm used to not really having my opinion, but just talking about it and exploring stuff. And I mean, you still have to have your opinion obviously in English, but yeah, so I would say definitely since I changed switched over to English, which was going on my second year as an official English major. I've been having my best work and my best experiences as a writer. You know, I loved it when my teachers would ask me to go talk to them in their offices and stuff like that to help improve my writing. So yeah, I've really grown the past year and a half as a writer, and my best works have been during this time. I've learned to do a lot more creative, more so than analytical, but I am still more comfortable with analytical over creative. But I have started to, you know, sprout my wings and broaden my horizons when it comes to my writing. What's influenced my writing? I guess what's influenced my writing is that I just wanted to be a better writer, and so that's made me very careful of how I write and influence the way I write, because I try to be very careful and use more expressive words and try not to use a lot of common words and stuff like that. And that, I guess that's really the only thing that's really influenced my writing, is just wanting to be a better writer and wanting to be able to have someone look at my papers one day and go, oh wow, like, you know, this is really, really good. Writing habits I have is that I tend to just write and go back and edit later, which can be kind of bad, or I'll write and edit at the same time. I've been trying to write and then edit, but I've had the bad habit in the past of writing and editing at the same time, or just writing and then not going back and looking at stuff. But I have been breaking the habits of doing that, and I'm just definitely getting more on myself about looking at my papers and stuff like that. Other habits, I have to have like complete silence. Like a habit of mine is going to somewhere where it's really quiet. I don't do well without noises while I'm trying to write. I'll get extremely frustrated and I'll get stuck in an area, so a habit of mine is going to a quiet place. And that's also, where do you write best? I write best in a quiet space. I write, if I'm doing a paper for school, I'll either do it in the morning or I'll do it in the afternoon, I'll do it at night. You know, I don't have a specific time. And I don't really write for fun. I tried that out in high school. I wrote a couple, I called them short novels, just for myself. And I did, if I remember correctly, I did write those mostly at night. But it's because I was going to school during the day. So I don't really have a time that I write best, or when, you know, when I write. I tend to hate drafts. I don't really like doing rough drafts. I usually just like doing a final paper, because I feel like if I do a rough draft and then go into my final paper, sometimes it's not as good, or I'll make changes that a teacher says they want, and then I'll get the final draft back, and then they'll say it's, you know, not correct, or they still won't like it, and I'd rather just go ahead and just give them my one draft, and that's it, more so than doing rough drafts. But if I have to do a rough draft, it's usually just one, and I try to make it like as if it's the final paper. Things that other writers have said about my writing. My roommate that I've been with since freshman year hates my style of writing. She says it's not organized. She doesn't like the way it is. She says I have great ideas, but she just doesn't like the way I write. And that one hurt a lot. You know, they say at the beginning of the chapter to make a list of stuff, you know, comments that have helped or stung, and that was one that really stung. And I did make that list, but it was very short. Also, so going back to the book, you know, I have had teachers that have given me great comments and made me feel great. Like freshman year, my comp teacher of college said, one person wrote this paper really good, and I didn't think it was going to be me, and it wound up being me, and he used my paper as an example, and that really helped boost my confidence there. And that's something she talks about, how one of her teachers wrote a really good comment about her paper that really, you know, the way she described the dinner table, you know, so definitely I've had one of those experiences where I've had a really, really great, comment that really boosted my confidence. So, she's also talked about how nowadays the rules have changed from when you're in school, and that's absolutely correct. I've noticed that a lot as I write. I mean, I just learned recently, like a week ago, that MLA has changed again, and there's a whole new format for it. So you definitely can't rely, and I try not to really rely on the rules I learned growing up. I just try to, when it comes to punctuation, I do, but otherwise, I try not to rely on it too heavily, because I know it's always changing. Everything's always changing, whether it's writing, language, science, whatever subjects. The things are always changing, so I always try to keep an open mind to the changes and make sure I'm not, just strictly following the rules I learned in high school. So, that's pretty much it. I really like the beginning of the chapter 2, just learning about, how comments can affect students and how she feels about it. Even in college now, those comments really mean something. They really definitely influence the way I am as a writer. And, I'd like it, and I would get bad comments also in elementary, and there's no, I just didn't like writing either. I really avoided, like I said, I avoided writing in elementary and in middle school like it was the plague. So, and that was just because of comments. I had an elementary teacher say that my actual handwriting, because my handwriting was terrible, she went up to the board and said, well, your handwriting, of course you can't read it, it's terrible, and she scribbled on the board. And of course that made me even hate writing even more, because it's well, my handwriting's horrible. Why am I going to want to write then? So I would definitely say putting positive comments is a good thing. And I know she was saying in the book that some people say that having too much positive can be bad, but honestly, I don't think it stunts someone as a writer. I don't think saying, constantly saying, oh, you're doing a great job is going to make them think, well, that's all they can do. I know when I'm told that I'm doing a good job, I'm like, oh yeah, and I'm improving, and I can do even better next time. And so that was something else, as a writer, when I was reading this, that I like that she said that you should be positive. And yes, there is too much positivity, but I'd rather get positive feedbacks or constructive criticism than just you suck at this, what are you doing? And she gave that example. It's teaching my daughter Maylin to catch a ball, and it goes boom in her face. If I say great Maylin, you put your arms out, she'll want to try again. Or I could say, geez, Melanie, I don't know how to say the girl's name, sorry, you really can't catch a ball, can you? That's what I'm talking about right there. I would get, literally in elementary and middle school, I would get those comments of geez, you really can't catch a ball, you really can't write, can you? Not really that great. And then it wasn't until, like I said, high school, college, I really started gaining my confidence in writing. So yeah, I could relate to a lot of stuff as a writer as to what she was saying in this chapter. And, reading all of the readings that we had to do, I learned a lot. And I was seeing myself as a writer in a lot of it when I was younger, when they're saying, calling a student a writer in the blog, I think that's a great thing. I think everyone is a writer. I was mad with the people that were saying not everyone's a writer. Everyone is a writer. So, yeah. If my teachers had been that way, more positive with me when I was younger, despite having ADHD, I think I would have been more eager to write. But because teachers weren't really positive with me and I struggled, I didn't really like it. So I think it's very important as a writer and as the future teacher of writer to really give your students the constructive criticism in a positive way that's not going to make them think they're stupid and not want to write anymore. So that's pretty much it. I hope you all learned a little bit more about me. I know I was kind of all over the place, but it's pretty much me as a writer. I was really bad at it at the beginning, and then I've just grown over the years as the more I read. And that was something I also talked about in one of the readings. The more you read, the better you will be as a writer. So I think that also had a great influence on me. Alright, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video.